Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, of course, depending upon where you are in the world and when you're tuning in. Welcome to Run It Back, episode number 68. I'm your host, Menelik Fernandez. The premise of the show, of course, remains the same, where we take teams that have played previously and we run the game back, so to speak, where we talk about how we prepared, what adjustments we made, if we would do the same thing given the opportunity to do it again. All that fun, detailed intricacies that coaches love. This episode remains to be similar in that we are going to have a coach from the game joining us. So the game we're exploring today is March 7th, 2021 game of Worthing Thunder, and I'm not going to pronounce this one right, versus Solent Kestrels. And we are joined by the head coach of Worthing Thunder, Coach Julian Stanley. Julian, I met through a mutual friend fairly recently, who is a phenomenal basketball player and friend of mine and speaks the world of Julian. So I'm really happy to have him here. And if you give me a second, Julian, I'm going to try to do you a little bit of justice with an intro here. He's been the head coach of the Worthing Thunder for this past season. Prior to that, he was a head coach at Solent Kestrels for the Ladies 2 program for one season. He was an assistant coach at Southeast England for the U15 Boys Regional Performance Center. Spent 2 years at Worthing College as a head coach and also has background as a strength and conditioning coach. Julian, welcome to Run It Back. I'm really thrilled to have you here. I'm happy to connect. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you for the nice introduction. You definitely did your research there. I'm excited to be here. This is my first podcast. I've watched a few episodes. Brian McCormick was someone who was on there before, and I really look up to him. I've read pretty much all his books. It's a nice moment for me to be on this podcast here with you.
I love it.
And of course, Ryan Marast, he's a great guy. I used to be water boy at Worthing Thunder when Ryan Maris was playing basketball there. So that's how I know him. And I'm really grateful that he put me in touch with you.
So fun story before we get into that. When I was in high school, he played at Jeffries and we had an exhibition game against each other, and I scored 29 in that game, but a gentleman on his team named Chris Blackwood scored 31 on me. So we're going to leave out all the details of that game. He, of course, went on and had a lovely pro career over there. Take us through a little bit of background just before we get started and actually explore the game. Tell us a little bit about the BBL, where you are in the season. This, I believe, is a special game. It's not just a regular season type game. Walk us through like what that game means to you as well. Give us all the details, please. Form the background.
Yeah, of course. So the BBL is the British Basketball League, and that is the premier division in British basketball. My team don't actually play in that league. We play in the league below. Right. So how the structure of the British Basketball League works is that the BBL is a franchise league. So it's much like the NBA and American sports system. And those who watch football or soccer know that in the soccer leagues over here, we have a relegation tier system. So if you finish in the bottom of the table, so in my league, which is NBL Division 1, you get relegated. But sadly, if you win the NBL Division 1, you don't get promoted into the BBL because that's a separate entity.
Right.
But yeah, so we play in, like I said, the National League Basketball Division 1. There's the NBL 1, NBL 2, and NBL 3. That's as far as it goes. We were playing in the middle of a pandemic last year. The only two divisions that were allowed to play were the BBL and the NBL Division 1. So we were fortunate to be playing basketball. It was a unique experience playing in small sports halls. Worthing Thunder, the team I coach, have the biggest fan base in the league, and we usually have about between 500 to 1,000 fans. So we certainly missed out on having a boost of the supporters at the games last year. How our season went, we started off slow. We didn't get many results early. So that wasn't great, especially as our team was one of the better teams in the league on paper.
Right.
But in the end, we finished 7th in the league, and we ended up winning our final 8 games of the season, putting an 8-0 run on. We made it to the playoffs semi-final, where we lost to Hemel Storm. And we also made it to the National Trophy final, semi-final, which was this game that we're going to look at. So we made it to the top 4 in 2 competitions, which was a good result for us in the end. So we were playing in this game against Solent Kestrels. And for those who don't know, they've been on a bit of a historic run for the past 2 or 3 years. They went 2 years unbeaten in the 2 calendar years unbeaten in the National Basketball League. And they also got an invite into the premier BBL competition called the Trophy, which is like a knockout competition. And they sometimes invite teams into the lower league. And Solent, not last year, but the year before, got invited into it. And they made it all the way to the final, beating teams in the leagues above. And they only lost by 1 shot in the final. So they were one of the best teams in the whole country in the past few years. Not only that, they are Worthing Thunder's arch rivals, probably with a rivalry going back for 40 years. We are located on the south of England, close to each other. So we have the geographical rivalry. And also we are top of the table teams. So there's a rivalry there as well. Last year, we played them 4 times, which was quite unique. That doesn't always happen, but it did last year. So the first 2 games, we lost by 20 plus. And in the 3rd game, we lost by 50 points.
Wow.
Yeah. So
they're good. It's a good place to start.
Yeah, so when I talk about the low points at the start of the season, that was probably the lowest it got. So yeah, we lost by 50, and we really had nothing to lose going in the semi-final because there was only one way up from there.
Right.
So that was kind of our mindset.
And let me interrupt you for a second. Sorry, Julian. I'm just kind of piecing things together in my mind as you're giving us the background here. And I apologize for not having the the BBL and the NBL like hierarchy correct. But you would play in the same division as Barking Abbey. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we played Barking Abbey last season. We played them a few times. Yeah, they're a unique setup because they're largely academy kids, 16, 17, 18, 19 years old. They have one American who plays, and maybe a couple players are a bit older, but largely they're a youth team. And yeah, they beat us 1 game. So for us, we're a team of seniors and professionals and players who have played in leagues above. So they did really, really well to beat us. And we actually played against them in the first round of the playoffs. And when we got the playoff draw, you know, they've given us a tough time. So that we weren't looking forward to that one. And they really pushed us in that game as well. But luckily, we got through it.
So I just connected in my mind because Roberto Fua did my show as well. So shout out Rob. But let's move into this game a little bit. So how much time between the last time that you play and this game do you have? When do you start the scout? And, what does that scout look like?
Just before I start that, sorry. When we played Solent in this game, they were missing 1 starter, Elliot Dads, who was their starting point guard. And they were missing a 6th man as well in Luke Bazumbru, who was a pretty athletic player who can really turn it on in the break. So when we turned up that game, there was a sense of like, we this today may be the day.
Right.
we could beat them. And they played the day before as well. So they were probably a little bit fatigued, and we had the day off before. So the conditions were optimal for us, should we say. And yeah, last game. So we play a game every weekend, and I'll start the scout on the Monday. And then we have our main practice where all our guys can't make all the practice, but they do on a Wednesday. So I make sure to get it finished by the Wednesday. So yeah, just Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, just watching film, clipping it, sending it in the WhatsApp group for the players to see. That's how I sent it across to them. And then we discussed the scout before the practice started. Yeah, and if there was we did walkthroughs of what the other teams do. And then sometimes we do some just condition 3v3 games or 4v4 games, just to give exposure to some of the actions that the other teams we play against run.
Perfect.
But yeah.
So let's talk about your scouting process a little bit then, in terms of what actually goes in. Do you lend more action to lend more weight to the personnel, or more weight to the actions that they run? And then in terms of video, do you give more weight to the prior times that you have played this team, or are you watching their more recent games when you're watching film?
I largely, I look at the last 3 games. I don't think there's much value in looking at games from the start of the season, because so much has happened, so many things have changed. They've had lots of practices to put new stuff in. So I don't really pay attention to past 3 games. I do look at the games we did play before, but I probably do put more weight on the most recent games that they have played.
Right.
Yeah. And
in terms of actions versus personnel, which do you lend more weight to type deal?
Well, yeah, matchups are important. We ought to give the matchups on the Wednesday. I say it to the team, see what they think. Sometimes they want to have some slightly different mismatches, but we don't completely, center around matchups, because substitutions happen, things change, and at some point people are going to have to guard different players anyway. The actions, yeah, we do put a lot of emphasis on the plays and sets that other teams run. But this game was slightly unique. We played them 3 times, and we then come near them once. We kind of seen the actions that they run, but mostly it's just ball screen continuity, and that's the same with a lot of the teams in the league.
Okay.
So we kind of knew that. So the kind of outcome of the scout, Solent are the most organized team in the league. When we lost by 50, they're putting a clinic on us. They're running all sorts of different plays, different sets, and if you want to go toe to toe and try and play chess with them, you'll probably lose. And that was kind of the way of thinking. We played 3 times and we lost, so it was like, we've got to try something new. And they prepare so well. They have a lot of staff, and they have video sessions, so they know your plays, to be honest, better than we do. They're so prepared. So the outcome of the scout was, okay, if they're so prepared, let's do something which they can't prepare for, because they haven't seen it before. They haven't seen us do it. And I noticed that no one in the league had really ever thrown the zone at them. So the outcome of the scout really was just to give them a zone, and they control the paint. They dominate points in the paint. I mean, they dominate nearly every category. If you turn the ball over, they score points of turnovers. They're up there on fast break points. You name it, they're up there on all of them. But 3-point percentage, they're not necessarily at the top of the table. So we just wanted to protect the paint and force them to shoot threes. So we opted for a zone.
I like that. So in that week, you mentioned the first practice not everybody can make. The Wednesday, everybody's going through it. I'm going to go out on a limb and assume then that a large portion of your walkthrough and time spent is the implementation of that zone. Is that correct?
Yes. But to be honest, I would like to spend more, but that was what it was spent on. But yeah, going back to videos, I sent in a whole probably 20 clips of their point guard Ian Smith, because he's just so good in transition, and really their offense really starts from their transition, and him. They don't run sets. They don't prefer to run them. They prefer to run the fast break and get you at a disadvantage from the beginning, and outnumber you and exploit a small advantage on the break into a bigger advantage.
Right.
So yeah, the video stuff was focused around him and stopping him in the break, and we did do that. And then also in the pick and roll, Travis Charles is their other American that they have, and he's so good on popping on and rolling on the pick and roll, and he has this mid-range jump shot, which honestly I rarely see him miss. He's got to be 80% with it. It's I may be exaggerating, but that's what it feels like. It's a jump shot like LaMarcus Aldridge. So yeah, we really had to walk through pick and rolls as well and make sure that we didn't lose him. And if we ended up hedging or double teaming, someone had to come across and tag him to take away that mid range. And he did only score 4 points in that game, and he was the MVP of the league not too long ago. So we did do our job on Travis Charles as well.
Yeah, kept him below his average. I saw that. That's always good it's a good feeling as a coach when you keep one of the stars below their season average. It's like, all right, we did something right there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the delivery of this scout to your guys. I mean, topically, you've given us a little bit already for sure, but in terms of the film, how long would something be? You mentioned there's definitely a little bit on personnel in there. Would there be a lot that is on sets as well? And then in terms of that film, does everybody get the same film, or do certain people get, like if I'm guarding Julian this game, am I going to get a little bit more on Julian for that game? Or is it just everybody gets everything because we're switching, as you said, and we're probably going to have to guard everyone at some point?
Yeah, no, I generally give it to everybody. Occasionally I do send just private messages with a few video clips to people, but I didn't in this game. Yeah, their sets, I mean, we did it previously for the past few games. They're scouting on it, so it was already there to be seen. You could just scroll through up in the in the WhatsApp. But yeah, they just move the ball quick. They zip it round fast. They run a lot of boomerangs. They'll run horn sets. They exploit mid. They got two guards, Ian Smith and Andre Aerosol, very fast. So they like to just call a go screen, and I could see it developing every time, and they could do it, and we just couldn't stop it because they were a little bit younger than us, a little bit faster. So yeah, they love to do the go screen off the and take us off the dribble.
One of the clips I have from the game we're going to talk about a little bit later on.
Yeah. They'll do a lot of double down, staggered down screens as well. But yeah, boomerangs into pick and rolls, and they'll set a lot of the back screens for the big as well, trying to maybe get a switch there from a guard onto a big. So yeah, guard to big back screens.
Let me ask you this: do you have assistant coaches? I didn't see any in the film here.
Yeah, good question. So I'm pretty proud of our dynamic. It's I'd say it's a predominantly athlete-led environment, which is kind of modern and hard to do. So maybe that was why we struggled at the start of the year. But I'll answer your question. I am the only coach who is not a player. So I'm the head coach. There is Zaire Taylor, who owns the club. He's called the director of basketball, but he's essentially my associate head coach, and he plays. He's played all around the world. Played in Missouri in college. He won BBL MVP, won the BBL scoring title, won the playoffs in the BBL as well. My assistant coach again is a player called Josh Goddard. So he predominantly helps with what does he help with? In-game coaching more so. And then there's Ishmael Fontaine, and he predominantly helps with the scout, especially early on in the season, because he's quite experienced in the league, so he knows a lot of players, knows a lot of their tendencies. And this was my first year there, so I hadn't seen some of these players before. So yeah, he helps on the scout. So it's a bit of a team effort. We had a lot of discussions in our group chat about stuff. It was not only me just posting stuff. Some other players would as well. Sometimes that was predominantly Ishmael.
Very interesting. It makes for an interesting dynamic. I'm sure probably contributed to the start and finish being very different in the trajectory going up like that, learning each other's styles. And I mean, it's not common to have player coaches. So to be able to work with one, I'm sure is a unique perspective because they're seeing things a little bit different because they're on the floor as well at times, right?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's great because he's so experienced and stuff that he just helped me a lot, and we worked off each other. And at times he led the way. But yeah, like you say, he's on the court, so he's not always seeing things because he is a top player as well. So you need him on the court a lot of the time. So yeah, that's where it's important that I watch the games diligently, and when it comes to timeouts and stuff, I give good drawings and descriptions of what's going on.
Right, love it. So then in terms of in game, this is a question that I often ask about, like what you have your staff doing. Is there anything that you are tracking while you're coaching on the sidelines, or is it because your staff is smaller that you rely more on eye test?
Yeah, we're not tracking advanced analytics or anything like that. I typically would tell the team that I coach principles more so, and also what I do track is effort. So I track, I track effort, and effort looks like, are they closing out? Are they giving up on ball screens? Are they not trying to get around them? Right. And are they getting back in transition? We had a terrible trait at the start of the year where the shot would go up and no one would get back, no one would crash the boards, and we would just get blitzed on transition. So yeah, I would track, are they closing out? Are they trying to get around screens? And are they getting back on defense or rebounding? Those would be the things that I'm tracking.
And what about, say, at your box score? So like in this game, halftime, what are you looking at in terms of things that stand out on the box to you? And then what are you conveying to your team based upon what the box is telling you?
Yeah, well, I look at all of it. Essentially, what I'm looking at is there, what stats are we winning in? What stats are we losing at? And we're trying to look for the difference in the game.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to look at. So is it points of turnovers? Are we losing in that? Are we losing in second chance points? Are we losing in fast break points? I'm trying to see where the difference is, but I'll definitely go and look at the foul count straight away. Always got to know the foul count. I like to look early as well at the points total and compare it to the other team's average. Are we keeping them below their average at the half or way above? But yeah, I'm looking at the difference in the stats. So I mean, the difference in this game was offensive rebounding. They had 19 offensive rebounds. We had 9. We were lucky though, because they didn't really beat us on second chance points. So they didn't necessarily convert on that.
Felt like they had about 7 on that last play, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, our defensive rebounding was very bad in this game. So that was what I'm looking at the halftime. And then also free throws. They shot 23, we shot 7. So we're lazy on defense. We're giving up fouls. And yeah, we won the game in shooting percentage. We were more efficient, but we gave up these rebounds and we gave up fouls and we lost at the free throw line. They had 20 points from free throws. We had 5.
Right. This is a big difference for sure. So like at the halftime, you mentioned one of the things you're absolutely looking at is a foul count, a differential. What does that tell you about your own team in your mind? Like, are you associating that with effort, style of play, aggression, how fast you're playing, anything like along those lines?
Um, yes, I mean, look, I reflect on the whole year, and we should have refed better in practice. We let fouls get away. We play slow sometimes in practice. We didn't play fast enough, and I think looking at this holistically, that was why we the foul count was like that, because we let it slip in practice. But yeah, I mean, I always got to track the fouls and got to track the fouls of our key players and Howard. So we really only had one dominant big, which was Howard Crawford, amazing player. But Solent have three. So
okay, right.
Yeah, I'm looking at that, and like things in this because of that. Howard's really good at hedging screens, but with really fast guards, they're trying to attack him off these screens. They're trying to get switches and attack him and get him fouled out of the game. So yeah, I'm looking at the foul count. And I'm saying, look, don't hedge so aggressively on these screens. Maybe something like that.
Yeah, I like it. And then in terms of things like your screen coverage, your style or speed of play, how many people to the boards, would you do the same thing like every game where it's like we do what we do, or are you giving them very different things in different games to try and adjust to your opponent?
Yeah. So first off, yeah, I can't remember what you said, but I'll start with screens. Like we try and go over on every screen. We just a general rule of thumb, whether they can shoot or not, want to go over it, and want to hedge as well to give them a bit of time. But that doesn't always happen. And each player kind of has their own tendencies. It really depends. And this is where it kind of the perks of having like Zaire, for example, and just generally older, smarter players, they kind of call it for themselves. So Zaire switches every time. And, if I'm the other team, I never want to enter a screen when Zaire Taylor is defending the screener, because he will aggressively hedge or switch on you and literally just take the ball off you. Like he's the best defender in the league, arguably. So he just switches. Like I said, Howard can hedge really well, but I'd rather keep him in the game. And also, like I said, Travis Charles, he would be guarding him. He would slip or roll and knock down the mid-range jump shot. So we had to make sure we didn't lose him. Occasionally, we would give, because Howard is probably the best rim protector in the whole league, we wouldn't mind even giving the guard a lane to the basket, because Howard would just block him from behind like LeBron James. So that's the luxury of having a good rim protector like that. So we were quite lazy at times, but we got away with it. But yeah, to be honest, in this game, the point guard, Ian Smith-Solent, we didn't defend his ball screens well enough and hand us very well. He was their top scorer for them. And yeah, we weren't prepared for his ball screens. He beat us on that. And then the other things.
So the other things were how many to the glass and the speed of play in transition, and whether or not you keep them consistent for every opponent, or if you vary them based upon the matchups for that particular week.
On the glass, like I said, we had a terrible trait at the start of the year where people wouldn't even get back and they wouldn't even crash. So I would just be happy if someone did something. But general rule. If it's on the weak, if someone shoots, especially like a free from the weak side, it's from the strong side, it's probably gonna, if it's off, it's gonna go long and end up on the weak side 75% of the time. So I always want the weak side crashing. But in this game, really, because they were so good on the break, I really just wanted them to get back into the 1-2-2, into the kind of box formation, and just protect the paint more so. But they did crash. We had like 14 second chance points, I think. Maybe we crashed the glass okay, but they just did it much better. Yeah, and in terms of pace, we struggle with injuries, man, this year. So Dominic Ives is playing in this game with a torn Achilles or something like that. He's got one leg. Zaire is I don't want to put ages, I don't want to put years on him, but I think he's around 35 and he's got injuries. Howard Crawford, again, he's about 32, I think, and he had a few injuries. So we really wanted to slow the game down, to be honest. We don't want it to go up and down. And also we only have about 8-man rotation. We don't really go too deep into the bench. So yeah, we want to slow the game down. We were actually bottom in the league in fast break points, which was not ideal. We only had about 11 a game. But that was because our half-court offense was kind of so good as well. Howard's so dominant. We want to slow it down so we can get him to post up. But if we do break, it's kind of like we kind of fast break American football style. Rather than dribbling down the floor, we will just have runners cherry pick. And Zaire is an amazing passer. He will just throw a baseball pass down the floor, and yeah. So our breaks were normally just off passes.
Love it. So then my last of the questions, and if any coaches have anything, please feel free to jump in, of course. But my last of the questions is, in hindsight is 2020, as they say, do you do anything like a post-game report that sort of critiques your own work in terms of the scout value in the win or loss? So what I mean by that is, like, afterwards, you take a look at the game, compare it to the notes and what you gave to them, or take a look at the film and compare it to the notes and what you gave to them, and say something like, I could have added this, or I could have done that, and write a little blurb on it type deal. Is there anything like that in terms of your style of what you're doing?
Yeah, definitely. We look back at, like I said, Travis Charles, we kept him to 4 points. That was a key part of the scout. Ian Smith, we didn't. So, we got to reflect on that. But we did keep him quiet in the fast break, so that was good. But I mean, so we lost by 50, and we only lost this game by 2 or 3 points. Yeah. So to 2 points. Yeah. So it's kind of like not so much in this game because we kind of hit all the checkpoints we wanted to do, but Solent were just so good that they still won. I mean, they won nearly 60 games in a row up until that point. Right. And no one is even coming, like, they win every game by 20 against everybody they play.
So it's interesting that you say that. Sorry to jump in, Julian, but when you send me this game is on YouTube, and I can watch the chat box down the side, and there's all these people like, what's going on? Why are these guys in the game? Blah, 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 all that, all the way through, because obviously their fans have just come to expect them to dominate as they have, like you said.
Yeah. So on reflection, like, we weren't really too critical of ourselves afterwards. We tried to just take the confidence with that to carry on to carry on through. But yeah, we fouled too much. Like I said, our defensive rebounding wasn't good enough. We probably should have spent more time on the zone, because there was a few 2 or 3 plays we lost by 2, and there was at least 4 points lost in where we didn't follow the rules of the zone, and right. They scored. So when you micro analyze like that, maybe if we just spent 10 more minutes on the zone, that wouldn't have happened. So definitely reflected like on that as well. But yeah, like I said, I kind of, instead of just reflecting narrow focus just on that report, I tried to reflect holistically. And I would say that actually having slow scrimmages and lazy defense all year is probably more of the reason why we lost, rather than just one bit of detail on the scouting report.
Sounds fair. If any of the coaches have questions, please feel free. If not, I'm going to jump into a bit of film here. from the game. So as I said, Julian, I'm going to play each clip 3 times through. Once just so like you can get an idea. Second time, I'm going to roughly try to describe it. And then the third time through, all you take it away, tell me what you see, all that kind of thing. So let me get into this and let's take a look. Are we good size-wise? Are we good playback speed? All of that. Sorry, I'll start from the beginning. That looks okay to you?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, perfect. So we're first play of the game here. And as I said, I'll run that back. We're right after the tip, and we've got what looks like is going to be a strong side stagger, kind of misses, and then 2 players cut up. And the gentleman with the ball goes to a little bit below the elbow and shoots a non-paint 2 on the offensive left side. So my notes on this are just, what are you looking to establish? Which players are you looking to get going? And, the shot selection overall, do you guys have anything in your system that talks about what's a good shot, what's a bad shot, and where this is for you guys? All you, sir.
Yeah. So what you're actually seeing here is we run, the guard coming off this double staggered down screen, call it an Iverson cut. I think some other people call it like a rip play or something like that. I think there's different terminology, but we run this a lot, and there's actually 3 or 4 sets out of this that we can get, and Solent know that because they prepare really well. Solent give a lot of ball pressure, a lot of they're the best defensive team in the league. They give a lot of ball pressure, but getting open off this cut is probably one of the easiest ways to get open in the game, to be honest. So that's why we like to go with this play, especially against Solent, just to soften the coverage and help our players get open. Now, what you're actually seeing here was a drawn up play, which went wrong. But in the end, it kind of looked like we meant to do it. But what was meant to happen was before the point guard cut, because that's what everyone expecting. Max Richardson, who was the guy who cut as well, who starts off as a first screener,
right,
was meant to peel off first and then go 1v1 at the top of the key with whoever was guarding him. So those bigs who were guarding him were typically slower, and Max is kind of one of these unicorns who can play multiple positions and constantly provides mismatches. If there's a guard, he'll post them up. If it's a big, he'll take him off the dribble. But yeah, that was actually a play that went wrong.
And then in terms of the shot, what's your team philosophy on non-paint 2s? Do you associate them with anything in terms of like points per possession for that particular player? Do you care what in the shot clock they happen? Give me an idea of what you guys think of the mid-range over there.
Yeah, I mean, I wish we had points per possession for every player, but yeah, our stats aren't that deep. I do try and measure things like that roughly. But Tom Ward, the player who took the shot, he has the best pull-up jump shot maybe in the whole country. He didn't see it in this game, sadly, too much. But he can really go off sometimes. He scored 35 points in our playoff quarterfinal, and they must have all been on pull-up jump shots. Right. So yeah, we don't. That's a great shot for us. I don't mind him pulling up there. And each player kind of knows their strengths and their weaknesses, and fortunately I don't really have to tell anybody that they've taken a bad shot, because everyone knows themselves pretty well and they're pretty mature on the team.
Like it. Next clip I have, sorry, this one was a little bit deeper. You guys get the offensive rebound, make a beautiful pocket or hook around pass, and finish off, get the first score of the game. So first blood for you guys. So then my second clip is zone early, why you discussed a little bit in the preparation. Maybe walk us through some of the principles for anybody who's listening in. They're in what to me looks kind of like a matchup 2-3. It's a 2-3 would be the base for sure. The ball starts on the right side. gets swung around. There's a cut from the offensive left slot. Sorry, just getting text. For anybody who's listening, I'm actually at NBA Summer League doing this show, so the phone has been very busy. Excuse any interruptions. They do a top ball screen and shoot sort of like a non-paint two from just below the three-point line. Give me an idea in terms of what you think of that set, what it looked like, and talk us through some of your principles, of course.
Yeah, so it's a 1-2-2 or a 3-2 zone. Same things really. Max.
That's interesting. I'm sorry. Then I've miscalculated in terms of what I'm looking at. That looks more like a 2-3 to me.
Yeah. That's because the player at the top. So Max, that was a guy who was really deep in the center. So that zone there looked like a 5 dice, you know, with the 4 dots and dot in the middle. That's how it looks right now. His job is he's now deep in the key, but his job is to cover the high post, the low post, and the top of the 3-point line. But because they're right now how Solent are spaced, they don't have anybody at the top of the 3-point line. He's just sitting deep because there's a big down there. So that's the position where you have to cover most areas. And so that's why in that instance he just looks pretty deep, because it's just how Solent set up. And in terms of the shot that we got that they took, that was exactly what we wanted. So yeah, it was a good first possession.
Yeah, I like it as well. In terms of your zone, talk a little bit about bumping or trapping in certain key spots. What are your principles for that there? Like let's say on the wing is a common spot, or when the ball's on the nail. What are you teaching your guys there?
So the wing guys, who are the ones and the ones and the twos. So in this is Tom who's guarding the ball now, and Jack who's just about to help. They were the two wing guys. They cover the wing and the corner. So that's a really hard coverage for them. That was the weakness in the zone. But we said we want to give up corner frees. So we knew that was our weakness. And coming into it, knowing that was our rules, that, you know, they didn't know that was our rules, but we knew that. So it was taking in that control away from them. Instead of them running a play and they're in control of the game and we're trying to keep up, we're now putting our rules in play and we know where the weakness is, so we can be prepared for that. So that's what the wings do. And then the two big guys, so Zaire, Taylor, and Howard, who are down on the two low blocks. Ideally, we want them to stay there the whole time. And you can see right now there's a triangle between Max, Zaire, and Howard. And that was a triangle that was a coaching point to protect the paint. We always keep our bigs in the middle of the paint because Solent just dominate the paint. So we wanted to try and keep them there. But occasionally the rules would be broken. And then the triangle behind. So Zaire is behind them. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, it's triangles all around.
Yeah.
So yeah, that, I mean,
I messed up your train of thought. Let me ask you this though. Let me segue off to something else. The pulling in from the wing on penetration is also a teaching point.
Yeah. So I mean, it's match-up zone. So the rule is, before we get onto that, is you don't pass a player off to another zone unless there's another player there. So the zone, you do get pulled out of your spots that you want to cover, but we want to protect the paint. The rule is protect the paint, and we want to give up frees. So we still follow man-to-man rules. If there's a straight line penetration, you have to collapse and shut the gap. So, you know, we are still following man-to-man rules there. And Jack's it's the right decision. There's no one there on the wing for him to even pass to. So they're still right now in this moment, they're trying to feel out what defense we're running. They haven't kind of clicked yet.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So next clip I have is one of your offensive sets. Looks like a diamond start. Then you move into an empty side attack and you play through the post. I was wondering sort of like some options out of it and your principles. So for anybody who's listening, the ball's in the center of the floor. There's a diamond start. The man who starts underneath the rim goes to the offensive right side. The guy who starts in the nail goes offensive left side. Sort of turns into a bit of not really a step up, actually. It's kind of a penetration and drop off to the post. Get your big in the post with the ball. So I'm just letting somebody in the room. And then on that, there's a replace back up to the top. And as he starts to attack, there's a cut from the help side corner, which is an interesting principle for me, not one that I'm familiar with. And then he gets a little left-handed hook over top and misses on it. So talk to me about this set, options, and definitely talk to me about that cut from the help side, if that's one that's planned or if that's a player deciding to read him.
That's a player just making a terrible decision. I respect that he's trying to move, but he's just made it the wrong time. We've got Howard, who's one of the best low block players in the league, posting up, and it's 1v1, and he's just ran straight to him and kind of messed it up. So yeah, that's the plan. Sure. And then the set is diamond set. Yeah, it's just like floppy offense. Yeah. But really, we just do it so we can get a pass inside into the post most of the time. That's just all it is, really.
So really, you're just trying to punch it to the big guy, let him go to work. He's your go-to guy at this.
It's just a bit of fluff before you can't just walk down the floor and just throw it into the post every time. So right. It's just a little bit of fluff before just to get the entry pass.
So the gentleman who throws the post pass, he does a bit of a penetration before and then drops it off. What are your thoughts on this in terms of if you're trying to get it in? And then he replaces himself, which is also an interesting concept for me, as opposed to going opposite. Do you guys have hard and fast rules, or has he just kind of realized I probably shouldn't have penetrated and I need to get back there?
Yeah, no, what's happened there, Orlan Jackman's played some ball pressure on him and he's essentially just panicked and tried to dribble and get away from him. And yeah, he's dribbled. Well, luckily he managed to get the ball in and pass it in, but he's just being ball pressured there, and they forced him into that dribble. But luckily it was kind of okay. We're really, like I said, they should have just all been spacing out and having good spacing. So if they did double team Howard, we could get a wide open look. But it's not a very pretty offense, that one.
What are your rules for exit cuts? Do you have any in terms of like they always have to go opposite, they always have to replace themselves, something like that?
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, split. Which the rule is on that split action. So the ball goes into the post. Max, who passed it, should then screen the guard who's at the top, so he could come across to the wing and then give an option for a free there. But I mean, you're pulling out the clips that make us look undisciplined.
I'm sorry, I gotta go hard on you a little bit there sometimes. It's kind of what I do on here. But no, it's interesting. I like to see when breakdowns happen, how players fix stuff, etc. But that split cut is a great idea. I love that. The player who sets the screen, does he then dive or does he then pop typically?
He would dive. But to be honest, if Howard's going to work, I don't want him to. So no, he'll just flare out to the top.
Next one, we've got one of their sets. It's I think we got a question here. Sorry.
Is it boomerang or?
So Max has actually asked, if the diamond set is used to pass the post, what is the rule for the second big?
For the second big?
Yeah. So.
Well, he's just going to hang about in the dunker's spot, and hopefully his man will help, and he can just lay it in.
Nice. Yeah, dunker it is. And so the next one is one of their flip to top ball screen actions. Talk to me about if this was one of the sets that made your scout, how you wanted to defend it, etc., and how you think you guys did. So for anybody who's listening, basically there's just a pass and a flip back, establishes the double side on the offensive right side of the floor, and then there's a top ball screen that happens. He's getting downhill against drop and over coverage, and you guys are still kind of in this 1-2-2 zone at this point. So talk to me about the principles of shutting down and how you think you did when they kick it out, swing, swing. This was obviously a shot that you were giving up, like you said, level of contest, all that stuff. Talk to me about it, please.
Yeah. So it's 1-2-2 because you can see we're in a bit of a box, and that's to protect the paint. And they've moved the ball to the corner, which we were giving up, and they've scored. And I always said at the start of the game that, and that we can practice, like that's what we're giving up. We can't just blow everything up if they score it, because the stats say they're only going to score it for 30% of the time.
Right.
So they were going to score occasionally, and yeah, this one goes in, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Do you have this set? Is it one of the ones that makes your scout, this little flip action and top ball screen that they're running here?
Yeah. I mean, I think I got terminology wrong. I was calling that a boomerang.
No, I memean, it's pass and get back. It could still be called a boomerang type action for me.
Right, yeah. That is one of the sets.
Love it. And for me, usually the difference between the boomerang and the flip, they're similar, they're still give and get back actions, is that the boomerang is usually over the rim line and attacking downhill. And then the flip is just like a give back up top. So there's no aggressive action immediately afterwards. But I could see them being synonymous for sure. Terminology is one that we all struggle with as coaches. So doing
right
from various countries around the world, it's always very interesting to see.
Yeah. I'm still learning all the terminology myself.
Love it. Next clip. I spelled transition wrong. Look at that. Transition threes for you guys. It's a question that I ask every week. This one's a little bit later in the second quarter. You're tied up. You guys get a defensive rebound and bust out. Quick pass ahead, and he lets it fly. It doesn't go down, but without being married to the results, talk to me about your point of view as a coach in terms of transition threes, yay or nay, and if yes, what does that player have to do to be able to shoot them on your team?
Yeah, we don't mind frees on the break. Like I said, we struggle in transition, and that's slashing to the basket more so. But so yeah, most of our transition points will be from frees. So that's fine. Occasionally we do get a bit trigger happy, and we do them too many times in a row, and it speeds the game up when we're not trying to, like I said, because we're a little bit older out there, and we need to save some energy, so we can't really be running up and down and just shooting it straight away all the time.
Right.
What quarter was this? The second quarter. Yeah, this was the lowest. Offensively, this was an ugly quarter for both teams, to be honest. But it was like 13-14 maybe in the score. Yeah. Both teams were shooting transition threes, and both teams were missing. And well, yeah, I also remember from this quarter, we had Howard out the game because he was in foul trouble. So Howard's are big, and they got two bigs in, but we played amazing defense in this quarter. We really doubled down really well, and we rotated very well out of it. I remember that from this quarter as well. But yeah, I don't mind that shot. And so other players taking it, most players on our team can shoot threes, pretty much. So, I mean, it's 2021 now. There's not many players left who can't.
I would agree with you. Are there any hard and fast rules for you guys, though, in terms of like you have to shoot this percentage in practice, or that shot is only good at these points in the game? And if it's somebody who, in your opinion, shouldn't be shooting it, what kinds of things are you saying to them?
It's really about game management. So if we're up, that's the only time I really remember this year of telling players they shouldn't have taken that shot, regardless of their percentage.
Right.
Our best 3-point shooter percentage was Dominic Ives, who was an inside man, and he stretched the floor. He was about 36-38%, so he was our best, but everyone else was about 30%, so no one was really too high in terms of efficiency. So I couldn't really bring those rules in. And plus the Zaire Taylor, who owns the club, he loves playing fast. He loves shooting threes on the break as well. So yeah, we're always gonna play like that, to be honest, unless we're winning the game when we're in control. With a tied game, that was fine.
Like it. This is a baseline out of bounds. It's what looks like is going to be a screen-to-screener action, but you guys get it right off of the first one on a slip to the basket, which is always nice. Talk to me about what this play would develop into normally, and how often you actually get that first one off of the screen.
Yeah, this is Zaire's play, man, and in fact, most the ones you pulled up today, most of them are his plays, and
well, he's a significant contributor for sure.
Exactly. So that's what I mean. Going back to saying I coach principles, when it comes to offensive building and stuff like that, he contributes a lot to that. But yeah, if you watch Team USA in the Olympics, they're doing this most of the time. Greg Popovich had them doing this, and it's literally just a back screen, and we score off it every time. And every team in the league knows we're going to do it, but we still score every time. In this one, they were just caught sleep. They were just asleep. But you can, if we don't score off the first initial pass, the guy who set the screen can then roll to the basket, because let's say if this defender just by the charge circle wasn't asleep and he switched, after Zaire sets the screen and then rolls, he's then wide open. So, and in this instance, we don't even have Howard Crawford on the floor, like I said, who is our big post man. So when he's on the floor, we literally do score every time. Max is slightly smaller, but yeah, here's not a problem. We get the basket. So yeah, we do this every time out of bounds. There's no real added thing to it. It's a simple back screen. And I think that coaches can learn from that doesn't have to be complex. If you teach something very well, then sometimes all the back screen is all you need.
Yeah, the simple box sets still dominate the league that I'm in college wise, and a lot of players have difficulty defending them, without a doubt, for sure. Just set a good screen and get out of there. You said when he sets this, does he roll to the other block? So his screen would be like so, and then his roll would be this direction?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, or just straight to the basket, depending when the defender is. But that's what he'll do. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's simple, but honestly, you could find, if you watch all our games, we're scoring off it every time, and you can hear the other team saying, the back screen's coming. Like, everyone in the gym knows what's about to happen. But it's, if you do it right. I mean, Zaire is so good at using his body and setting screens. Yeah, we just score every time. I learned a lot from that, from watching Zaire teach that to the team. It made me realize, like I said, how simple it can be.
Love it. Next clip is a defending one. It's one of their horn sets. There's a pin away, and then touch to step up action, and then the Gortat on the roll is what my notes say. So for anybody who's listening, this is a horns action. He dribbles to the left slot. On the help side of the floor, there's a pin down. The ball gets reversed. The other horn exits opposite. Then we flip the ball back, and the original pin down man sets a top ball screen that is moving towards what is now a single side on the right side of the floor. And then our roller seals his own man and the ball handler attacks left, so he's coming down the center of the floor. And we've got this Gortat screen, which we're starting to see a lot underneath the basket. Talk to me about being able to defend that, sealing his own, and then talk to me about how you think you played the play overall from the beginning.
I mean, Jack, who's defending the ball, he's pretty good on-ball defender, especially more so when it's off the ball. That's his best job. But Andre Aerosol, who makes the layup, he's pretty fast. He's really good at driving to the basket. So I mean, it's a beautifully executed play. We've could probably close the gap on the paint, especially down in the low block. There was the shooter in the corner isn't necessarily a 40% 3-point shooter, so he could have helped more. The help on the elbow, Max, he's guarding number 13, is one of the best 3-point shooters in the whole league, so he can't really help there. So yeah, it's just great X's and O's really from Solent.
Like it. This Gortat screen, do you guys do anything about working against preventing this seal down low? It's a relatively new offensive feature. It's borderline an offensive foul, depending on who you talk to, but it definitely seems to be something that is happening. So like the screen starts at a step up and they just realize what's going on together. It's a tough one to defend. Do you have any teaching tricks for your big man down there?
No, it's not something that we see too often. I'm not sure. I think that's a legal play. There's nothing wrong with that. To me, it's go back to.
So here's your flip back. We go under. Here's instead of reversing the screen, you're twisting.
Yeah. For me, the thing I'm worried about here is why we get beat so easy to the middle. Right. If that doesn't happen, then the Gortat seal, whatever, doesn't matter. So you really just can't get beat to the middle so easy. He didn't get screened. I think he thought he was gonna get screened because they looked like they were gonna rescreen.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's basic principles. You can't just get beat to the middle like that. So instead of really worrying about the Gortat screen, I would focus more so on just not getting beat to the middle. Yeah.
So, and then I have one more question. The gentleman that's your on-ball guy, in the Hornets action, I mean, he's over top the first screen, and then on the flip action, he's through or underneath on that, and then he's through and underneath on the second. So is he going by what your scout is saying, or is he just is a player trying to make a good play and stay in front of his man ultimately?
No, this is what I mean. Going back to the start of the podcast, if you that's the aim, but like I said, Solent's half-court X's and O's are pretty good. Right. He's struggling. He's behind on the play. He's playing catch up from the beginning. So he's in emergency mode to try and keep up. That's yeah. You can have these rules, but they get broken.
For sure. And then we got the one more about the Ghost, the Maydays that we were talking about. This is in the fourth quarter. This is late. Scores, they're 1 up. And then it looks like they were about to set up a Horns play, and he just goes out and gets a straight line drive. Talk to me about your principles of, do you help or stunt off of the ball side? And the low man coming over, is that something that you're fully willing to commit to on a Horn set?
Yeah, no, I'm not a never help from the strong side because it always results in the corner three guy. Like I said, the start of the focus on this game was protect the paint and give up 3-point shots. So, and second of all, the guy in the corner is not a 3-point shooter. So there should be some help defense there. And yeah, we're terrible at hugging our man. That's one of our bad traits that we have as well. Right. So we're just, again, on the weak side, we're hugging our man, but that is a good 3-point shooter in the corner. But yeah, the strong side should have helped there. And
should have or should not have, sorry.
Strong side should have helped. Yeah, he should have stepped up and took a charge.
Interesting. Like it. And then I think we are into the very last play of the game here. So, as we were saying, these guys had given it to you a little bit earlier in the season. This was a great game all the way through. It's actually 80-80 on the last play here. You guys had just prior had the opportunity to go up, but unfortunately turned the ball over. So on this last play, they call a timeout and they go to draw something up. Talk to me a little bit about what you're saying in the huddle to your guys. And then talk to me a little bit about the play itself, just so anybody could see. The ball starts in the center of the floor. This is a really long play, right? So there's a few offensive rebounds here. There's a top ball screen that looks like it's supposed to turn into a Spain action, but doesn't really work out properly. The roll kind of falls down. They attack deep. You guys stay with your coverage. They get a contested mid-range jump shot. So we're about 16 left on the game clock. The rebound is got by them. He pulls a quick three with about 14 left and misses that. And then they come up with one more offensive rebound and swing it around. And now we get to the last final five. And the gentleman who catches it on the offensive left wing slot, wide slot area, attacks middle and shoots a floater to win the game, unfortunately, with 0.7 left. But I want to know really more without being married to the result, because it's just unfortunate long rebounding, in my opinion. What you're saying to your guys, what you're thinking throughout the play, if there's any instruction you're yelling, all that kind of stuff.
No, there's no instruction being shout out. If you're in this part of the game, and you got these players on the floor at the end of the game, they're there for a reason, because they're there to close out the game. You can't play station coach from the side. I'm probably just standing there in shock at how many times we're giving up the rebound. To be honest, it was a bad moment, because even right before that play, we turned the ball over. So we had the chance, we had the possession. We could have gone up there and got a bucket, and then we've turned the ball over. That's just really shook our confidence, and I think our mind is just kind of all over the place. And also our big man Dom, he had to be subbed out because his Achilles was just done and he couldn't carry on. So then we got a smaller lineup out there as well, which, well, I mean, he couldn't run about much, so I don't know if he would have got a rebound, but he will definitely put a body on more people in this possession,
right?
If he was on the floor, because that's what he was really good at. But no, we just wanted to, again, stick to our rules, protect the paint, force a long shot, and then try and get the ball back and go for the win. But obviously we just gave up all these rebounds, and we're standing and watching when the ball's going up rather than putting bodies on people. These are things you learn in basketball and early on in our careers. But yeah, it there's many things that happened in this game that cost us the game. It's not just this last possession,
For sure.
But it definitely hurt that possession to lose a game like that.
Well, I mean, for sure it does. It does hurt losing close ones. But one thing that I thought was pretty interesting, and somebody said this on my show pretty recently, was that inside of 6 points, Greg Popovich's winning percentage isn't really that different than like Budenholzer's is, et cetera. Like the best coaches and the middle of the pack coaches, there's really not that much of a difference in terms of the winning percentage among them once the game's within 6. So, I mean, a 2-point loss at this point in the season, given the fact that they, handed it to you guys earlier, in my opinion, I think you've really shown the progress throughout the season and done your job as a coach.
Yeah. It hurt, but no one had come that close. I mean, yeah, the stats tells that last possession does tell kind of the story of the game, because they had 19 offensive rebounds. So yeah, that is a prime example of kind of how that game went. But no, we took so many positives from it. From there we went on a winning streak and turned our season around. And like I said, made it to the final 4 in 2 competitions. We knocked off the second seed, Thames Valley, in the playoff quarterfinal when we were the 7th. And so that was a big highlight for us. And I guess people watch this because they want to learn and which is great. So I think if there's any coaches watching and your season doesn't start off so well and you lose by 50, I think just don't let it beat you up and just focus on the next practice and try and get better, because you can turn it around. I think I'm quite fortunate in my first year of coaching that I kind of had this adversity at the start of the year, because it made me grow up very quickly. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to next season now, which starts in just next month in September.
And I'm looking forward to see the results that you produce, or you got a fan over here for sure. LB is giving me a little bit of hell in the chat, telling me don't put Budenholzer and Pops in any category together, please. So if anybody has any questions just before I wrap it up, please feel free. But if not, Julian, it was an absolute pleasure being able to sit down with you and hear your point of view and get some info in terms of how you're doing it over there. Really, really appreciate the time you took, and thank you so much for running it back.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's my first ever podcast. Yeah, and I'm just so grateful you had me on. Thank you for everybody who came on and watched in the live chat too. Hopefully I can come back after the next season and we can maybe analyze the result where we won.
Yeah, I look forward to it for sure. Absolutely. Thank you. If you want to stick around once I stop the recording, usually we chat for a little bit. Thanks to all the coaches who jump on week after week. You guys know I really, really appreciate you guys. I hope there continues to be value for all the listeners out there, and catch you guys next week. Thank you.